Hello everyone, welcome back to Garage Time. This week we're going to have a change of venue, which is going to be much needed after working on these bumpers for so many weeks. We're going back to the rear fenders and addressing the flares. So please stay tuned. This week it's how to install steel Porsche RS flares.
Garage Time.
If you remember a few episodes, I had started this project with the flares, but I had purchased the wrong flares. So this time I have a true SC flare. I know this is an SC flare, or it could be from a Carrera too, but this one is good, and it's the passenger side. So I'm going to try to modify this flare into what is known as the RS flare, and they're very similar, except for the top of the ridge gets a little bit thicker. So if you can see here, this is a bead that goes all the way around the perimeter of the wheel arch, and it stays pretty constant. This is about, I think it's 5/8 of an inch, all the way around. And in the RS flare, it starts to get larger at the top. I personally like the look of the RS flare a little bit better, so that's what I'm going to go with. Especially since this is going to look like a 73, we want it to be period correct, and I think it's going to be worth spending a little extra time massaging that shape into this piece. So I'm going to strip the paint off, start marking it up, and start to get creative about how to reshape this a little bit. This is the side of the car that I'm going to be working on. It has some body repairs already, and it's not so good. There's definitely some dents in there. I hope there's not too much Bondo in that. But I'm going to be stripping the paint on this as well, so we can start laying out the location of the flare. I've just scraped off the first layer of paint with a plastic scraper, and now I'm going to go to my other favorite tool, which is this Strip It disc. And this paint's already been softened, so this is going to come off pretty quick with the Strip It disc. So I'll do that right now. Most of the paint is off now after I've done the Strip It disc all over, and it's a little bit more clear to see where this ridge definition is now that the paint is off. It turns out it's about 15 millimeters here, and it's about 18 millimeters at the top. So I just want to accentuate that by keeping it 15 millimeters here, and then it goes to 28 millimeters at the top. So next step is to cover this in the Dicam layout fluid, so then I can start marking where I want to reshape it. All right, guys, I'm at my computer again, and I'm just doing some research on the differences between the RS flare and the Carrera flare. And there's been some interesting discussion. I'm here, this is the Pelican Parts website, and so several people have looked into this, and even has gone as far as to trace, some lines on the wheel arches and determine, what's different. We know that the height is different here in the middle. But the question is, do you extend it down or do you extend it up? And that's what I'm getting into. So I've done the same thing on this side. So in Photoshop, I've turned on some lines. Okay, I've drawn some lines from the SC, and I've transferred them down to the green car, which is a Carrera. And I'm toggling the lines. They're pretty faint. I'm just toggling them on and off right now. So hopefully you can see that on camera. I went with some really thin lines so I can actually be as precise as possible. So with the lines on, I'm seeing that the arch on the top arch of the lip there is very, very similar to the arch on the SC. And where it differs is on the lip that goes inside. So what I need to do is different than what I was going to do. I was going to reshape the upper arch, but instead I need to add material to the bottom. You can see the discrepancy between this red line and then this part of the fender. So that's what I'm getting into now. And it also appears, there's a few other pictures over on this side too, it also appears that the height is not created equally. It's got a little bit of a rear bias. So if you think of the wheel being at 12 o'clock, the center of this thick portion is not at 12 o'clock. It's a little bit more like 1 or 12:30 or something. So it's got a little bit of a bias to the rear. You can see it on this green car as well. It hangs down lower, but it hangs down lower, you know, once again, not at 12 o'clock, but probably at 1 o'clock. So I need to extend it down sort of in the 1 o'clock position over the width of about that far. So I'm going to take some measurements. I am able to use the ruler tools in Photoshop to take some measurements. If I know this is 25 or 28 millimeters, then I can estimate what the height is over here as it slowly tapers back to the original SC shape. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing some math. I'm getting the exact, or as best I can possibly do with pictures, I'm getting the exact arch. So here's the game plan. I think I got it nailed down. This is a printed out picture from the computer, and I've put some angles on here showing that this arch is going to extend down, but it's a little bit biased towards the rear. This is the rear. So I have that angle noted here. I have some numbers for the height of the arches that were taken from measurements off the computer screen, and those are now translated onto the fender. So the area that's affected is from here to here, and this lip is going to come down. Now originally I was going to move this one up, but as I learned in the computer, that's not correct, and I think it would look funny. So instead of a hammer and dolly exercise, this is now going to be kind of a cut and weld exercise. So I'm going to cut out the lip from here to here, make a new one with the new numbers, and weld it back in place. I chose to unfold this flange right here only because I need something to weld to. This doesn't give me the height that I need, although it is pretty close. I'm gonna end up trimming this a little bit, but if you look from a distance, you can almost see the shape of the Carrera arch, which to my eye is already looking better. Okay, I'm back here at the bead roller again. Seems like this thing's getting a lot of use on this project, which is good because it's kind of a new tool for me. But I've traced this shape of the wheel arch onto just a piece of metal, and I'm going to tip this flange, tip it up, and then that's going to be the new lip, and then I'm going to trim it after I flange it to mate up with the fender arch. All right, I definitely don't need this much material, but I left it there so that it was easy for me to use it on the bead roller. But this piece is going to get grafted in here like so. And this arch was a little bit arbitrary. Once I cut most of this material off, I will be able to adjust it. But this was just, traced from here, which is a good start. But it will be flexible as I get it smaller. And the idea is to use this material here where it needs to be added. And then as I get closer to the 15 millimeter sections, this is just going to get cut away and the welding will be just taken right to the edge. So I'm going to start trimming here and then also trimming here and just trying to line it up and manage the heights as I get all the way around. So it's going to be a little bit of cut and paste and trial and error, as always. Okay, I started with a really big piece of metal and I probably wasted more than I needed to, but now you can sort of see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, splice this piece in where it needs the extra height. So over here where it doesn't need the height, then this will get trimmed even further. And I'm just gonna weld along the edge. I really like to weld along the edge as opposed to welding out in the flat, just so the distortions are less. But here, I actually need to weld in the flat because this needs to be 28, and right now it's about 24. So I'm gonna continue to mark and trim, but this is generally, what's going on. These need to be, this has got a little too much curvature in it, so I'm gonna, sort of straighten it out and make sure I can get it to fit this arch. But this arch is right here where it needs to be, 15, this is like 19. Here it's about where it needs to be. And then just need to add, the only piece I need to add is between these two big green lines. And then of course this portion of the lip, which is gonna continue, the stock portion of the lip is gonna stay. So I'm gonna have to weld from here to here. Okay, I've been slowly whittling this thing away. There's really not much left to it, but this is what is needed to get that slightly thicker arch. So I'll try to give you a close-up look on this. Okay, here's the rough fit of what I'm trying to do. You can see how it's coming together. This is about the 28 millimeters that I need, and I just have to keep fine-tuning the gap a little bit. Right now it's overlapping slightly, but the weld line is going to come along here in the flat and then roll around the corner, and then this thin section will all just kind of hammer as we go, tighten it up, and make sure that this arch is pretty smooth. Now, what I like about this technique is that this upper arch is unmodified, and it's a nice, sweeping, continuous motion, whereas this one, has a kind of it's gonna be a tighter corner here as it gets thicker. This drops down closer to the tire. So I think it's coming along okay so far. You just have to kind of keep trimming and getting that gap really tight so the TIG welder can do its thing. I was able to get a few tacks on this little tiny sliver. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way here. And I've met all my dimensions. So we got 28 at the top, and it sort of tapers down right back to the original. Here's the original here at 15, gets wider, and then back here to the 15. And this was based on the pictures. I'm pretty happy with the shape, how it blends in with the existing. So it's looking pretty nice. Now I have the flare is just clamped on with 2 little clamps. And I'm really looking for the shape of that profile that I just modified. All right, that's much better with the blue die chem taken off. So now you can really get see a view of the shape of the arch and how it blends in. I'm going to mark the top of the arch again with a marker, and then I'm going to take a still picture and compare it with what I have on the computer. Okay, here we are again at the computer, and now there's a picture of my car superimposed on top of what was the green car. So with a marker, I drew the black line. This black line is actually on the car. I just drew it with a Sharpie so I can get better definition on the photo to compare it with the green car. So I can toggle between the green car and my car and really compare the shape of the arch. So I've shifted the image and scaled the image so this black line follows the exact curvature of the green car, that upper arch. And then if you look at the lower arch, it is lining up pretty darn well with the green car. So I'm going to call this a success. The other cool thing I can do, watch this. I can blend these 2 pictures together. So with them blended, I see a small difference here. The green car has a little bit more of a, I don't even know if you can see that on here. There's a slightly larger arch right here on the green car, but from here all the way to the front, it's just perfect. I think there's just a tiny little bit different right here. So I haven't welded that yet. I might just feather that in a little bit longer, just make a little longer gap on that to get it exactly the same as this green car. So once again, green car, my car, and then feathering the images together. So that's pretty cool. Definitely love the use of computers, even when it comes to cars from the 70s. There's my car. There's the real Carrera. Nobody is going to know that this is an SC flare. It's definitely a stealthy move. You can see the red car on top. It certainly has a different profile. So this really sets apart my car from all the other SC backdates. So I took the flare off the car one more time, and I marked this area where there was the slight discrepancy on the computer. So this section right here is still loose. This is the tack right here. I'll probably cut this little short weld, and this is the splice right there. So I'm just gonna pull that out a little bit. You can see it bending out right now. And then I'm gonna slice this just a little further, probably to about here, and just pull it down, blend it in, and just fill it up with a little bit of TIG weld on the corner there. So this will make it, this is about 1/8 of an inch, I'm guessing, disparity between that and the original Carrera, based on the picture. So you can see a slight corner right here, and I just need to soften this corner so it's a little bit smoother transition from here to here. But overall, I can't complain. It was really, really close. I've mentioned these wheels before, these Dremel Easy Lock wheels. You know, for big projects, they're not good. But for this small adjustment made to this fender arch here, it is very good. So someone asked me how thick these wheels are, and that's the beauty of these. They're super thin. So I am measuring them right now, 32 thousandths of an inch. This one's been used, of course, but and they're a little loose on the spindle, but for this type of work, especially with TIG welding, this is my favorite cutoff wheel. Here's the adjustment that I made to this arch. So it is a little smoother here as it comes to the rear bumper. This is the rear bumper here. So that's the new transition. And then if you can tell here, this is a gap that I need to fill up. This gap is about 2 sheet metal thicknesses. A little tricky to do with the TIG welder, but you just have to go slow and take the time. It's going to put a lot of heat in the panel, but because it has this ridge above it, I don't think there's any risk of warping anything. All right, so I filled up this sort of larger gap here to re-contour this corner. This is the rear corner. And then I also went ahead and just welded all the way to the end. So this is all finished now. The back side is okay. I mean, it's pretty unobtrusive. I don't think this is undetectable. Once this gets filled with maybe a little seam sealer and also some undercoating, this repair or modification will be undetectable. The only thing left to do is to lower the height of this lip, because I always leave these extra long so it serves as a heat sink during welding. But you can see it's about 1/4 inch too tall. So I will come back when trim this down and just grind it till it's the same height as the rest of the flange. You can see the difference in height. All right, so the previous owner has sort of left me with this. This is the torsion bar hole here. It's been cut, but I can tell that it has the shape there of the torsion bar cover hole, which is great for locating the flare onto the car. But I don't know what happened here. It's just a big circle and some teeth marks kind of right there. So prior to welding this on the car, I think it's best to at least fill this part in. All right, guys, that's as far as I can go on this fender profile. This right here is, this is the part that was unfolded. So now you can really see the difference between what the SC was. This is what the SC was right at this bend line where I unfolded it. This is all additional metal. So I got this smoothed out and the profile I'm happy with. There's a little bit of a bump in the road right here, but that'll come out in the bodywork. And then down here, I was able to kind of fill in that empty hole. So I have a fresh start. Once I put this on the car, I can line up this edge with the existing torsion bar hole, and then I'm gonna have to just figure it out once this is installed. But there you go. This is the how-to DIY Carrera RS flare made from a SC flare. Okay, so it's back on the car. And just clamped in place. I know in the camera it might look like it's welded, but it's just clamped in place. I need to do a little bit more research to determine kind of the distance from here to here. Make sure that I have the distance that it comes out of the car. And I want to make sure that's correct. So I'm going to do a little bit more measuring from a friend's car and take some templates off the bottom too. Make sure we get this welded in the right place. But now you know the difference between a SC flare and the Carrera RS flare. It's a very subtle difference, 8 millimeters. I'm glad I did it. And even though it's a subtle difference, it really does change the appearance, in my opinion. So you're probably wondering, why didn't you just buy the Carrera flares? And I would have loved to. I mean, that would certainly make things go faster and easier, but these are about $800 each. So I spent on this car, which is a budget build. I mean, this was, I think, $50 on eBay, and then shipping was like $35, so $85 shipped, and a couple afternoons, and I'm reasonably confident this is very, very close to the Carrera RS flare. So there you have it. Thanks for watching again this week. I love all the feedback you guys have been giving me. Even the skinny tire guys, I'm with you. I do hope that I didn't lose you on putting these big flares on here. I am going after a little bit more tough look and more of a race car look. So thank you again for your comments, and we will see you next week where we'll continue to weld this on. And also, I do not have the SC flare for the other side. I am still searching. So if you know of one or would like to allow me to buy one from you, I would love to do the same modification to the other side. But once again, budget build. Take care, guys.